Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, high finance and raising money. We examine business loans for small enterprises. And Nigel Farage, the UKIP leader, campaigns in Grimsby. And I'll be talking to local children's author Stuart Spendlow about his latest book and child safety on the internet. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Richards. First of all, it's over to James Dunn for the news headlines.
It's been an interesting visit for Nigel Farage, who told Grimsby UKIP would increase defence spending and do more to look after veterans in Grimsby today. He was met on the docks by reality TV star Joey Essex, who described him as a ream guy. But he got a frosty reception from a hostile crowd at Grimsby Town Hall who chanted racist scum ahead of his arrival. In one of very few public meetings of the campaign so far, he said they'll increase defence spending to 2% and that it's shameful the way Britain treats its veterans. He visited in support of Victoria Ayling, who is battling Labour's Melanie On for the seat described by many as one of the country's key marginals. Police are looking for a man in his 40s who allegedly assaulted two 18-year-old male and one female in a kebab house in Cleethorpes Marketplace. The older man, said to be around 6 foot tall with a shaven head, pushed the younger one into a window after being challenged for being abusive to staff. He left with the 18-year-old girl, but they were challenged by the offender again on St Peter's Avenue, pushing them into a car before a doorman intervened. Internet service providers in the region are signing up to a new scheme to shut down child sexual exploitation online. Quickline Communications, based in Hessel and serving around 3,000 homes and 50 schools in the region, has joined Internet Watch Foundation. Other members include BT and Virgin, and all agree to block abusive images of children as soon as they're reported. The foundation then investigates them at source. MD Steve Jagger says regulation should not compromise internet freedom, but providers should do their bit to fight anything illegal.
My feeling is that the industry needs to self-regulate a little bit to keep that balance of the freedoms of the internet, but take out the really nasty illegal content that's out there.
And finally, Barton upon Humber has been named as one of Britain's top property hotspots. The town on the South Bank near the Humber Bridge saw property prices rise 12% and sales jump 76% in 2014, according to property agents Hamptons. It's the home of British Bake Off winner Nancy Birtwistle. That's all from me, I'm afraid. Bye for now.
Lincolnshire author Stuart Spendlow has produced his latest work, Penguin Pig. As we heard in the bulletin, the internet can be increasingly dangerous to children, their parents increasingly concerned about how to protect them. Stuart's book is designed to help to keep children safe online. He joins me now. Stuart.
Hello. Hi.
It looks like a magnificent production, Penguin Pig.
Yep.
How on earth did such a strange creature come into your head?
Do you know, it's a really bizarre story. I'm a teacher by day. And for some strange reason, years ago, I was showing my class how to draw a penguin. And to me, it was brilliant, but to them, it would look nothing like a penguin. And they kind of christened it a penguin pig. And later on that afternoon, they tried persuading another teacher that this was actually a real creature that had been discovered. And it all got very out of hand. So when I needed a fictional character for the book, I thought, well, you know, what a better fictional character than the penguin pig.
Raises several questions about the state of our educational system. Is it necessary in the national curriculum for children to be able to draw a penguin?
I believe it was, at this particular moment, it was very important.
And how many of your colleagues in primary education do believe that there is such a creature as a penguin pig?
I think probably about 2 believe in it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the plot of this story?
The idea is there's a little girl who reads about a penguin pig online, and she's fascinated by this. She thinks, wow, I really want to go find it. And she talks to her parents, but they're too busy. They're too busy doing things. So they say, fine, we'll look tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and they never look again. And they have sort of no interest. And the girl gets frustrated. So she decides she's going to go find it all on her own. Very stubbornly, she thinks, right, I'm going to go and find this creature. So she sets out, follows all the instructions from on the website, and unfortunately ends up in some danger, which I won't spoil, the danger element. And she panics, and it all looks like things are going horribly wrong. And I'm not going to say any more than that.
There is a frightening moment in there, isn't there?
There is a very frightening moment in there, yeah. It's frightening for all ages.
And can we be reassured that there is a happy ending?
There is a happy ending, there is. And there's a really strong message as well, not just for children, but for also parents.
Okay. And what sort of age group is it for?
It's aimed at 5 to 7-year-olds. But one of our reviews, in fact, the first published review that came out, said she gave it to a 9-year-old boy who's a reluctant reader, and apparently he loved it.
Well,
so,
there you go. Maybe it helped the reluctant readers. Or why would you buy books for reluctant readers? I suppose to stop them being reluctant readers.
To hope they're not reluctant in the future, I guess.
You didn't do the illustrations. The illustration is fantastic. That's
the illustration's
a bad page
amazing.
to open it up at. But look at this wonderful, colourful, beautifully sort of traditional illustrations, really. It reminds me of Gerald Scarfe and the illustrations for Roald Dahl and things like that. And Peter Blake to some extent as well. Who did it?
It was Amy Bradley, who I didn't know before the project at all. I looked at hundreds of illustrators online, looked at lots of portfolios. Some I loved, and some I thought, oh no, I don't really like that. Not that I could do it better myself, of course.
Well, you can't draw a penguin.
Well, no, I can now. And I got in touch with Amy and said, look, I'm doing a book. It's about a penguin pig. This is what it looks like. Do you think you could draw one? Expecting her to say, leave me alone, you strange person. And she said, yeah, of course, brilliant. So she was straight in there, and she's amazing. She is so talented.
You've sold quite a lot of copies, haven't you? It's been out since last summer.
Yes, July last year.
And you've had a bit of a hit with it.
We have, yeah. And the launch was great, and we did a tour of Staffordshire last summer, and that was a great success. Loads of people interested, and then things kind of levelled off for a bit. And in February this year, for Safer Internet Day, suddenly it just took off. Things went crazy. Schools were buying it, consultants were buying it, people were buying it, and it became Amazon #1 bestseller, which is a huge achievement.
That is quite an achievement, and I take it that you will now be retiring to your yacht in the Caribbean.
Yes, that's the plan anyway, with a big penguin pig on the side of it. Not quite yet, no. But
will you be writing more?
I'd love to, yeah, I would love to. There's a couple of ideas that are going round, but I think it's not just finding time, but it's actually been in the frame of mind to really write it.
Stuart, don't go away. We'll come back and talk more about the internet in a moment.
Perfect.
A key focus of the general election campaign is the economy. The parties all vie to claim the greatest support for business growth. One scheme that has already been supporting new business in our region is a start-up loans programme from the Chamber of Commerce's Acorn Fund, which offers up to £25,000 to new and emerging enterprises. Dave Nunn has more.
Growing businesses are the driving force behind any economy, and start-up businesses in our area are being given loans of up to £25,000 thanks to the Chamber Acorn Fund. The Hull Land Train, run by Mally Welburn, received £20,000 for getting the train on the right tracks and says it was crucial.
It's helped massively, it really has, Richard, do you know what I mean? If it weren't for them and the help of Peter Sykes at Acorn Funding, you know, it's not just the money they give you, it's the support that they give you. And as you can see, this is what's created from a little acorn, from an acorn to an icon. So we've started from a little acorn, and we'll go take everybody and see all the sites around, all the iconic sites. You know, it's a godsend. They're a godsend. It really has been really helpful.
The investment has paid off. The Land Train had a successful first year and is now receiving sponsorship from one of Hull's biggest attractions.
This is our second year now, Richard, second year, so we've got through the first year, and we had nearly 20,000 people on the train last year, taking them on sightseeing tours and dropping them off at the Deep. We dropped nearly 6,000 people off at the Deep. And this year, it's gone that well this year. We've got sponsorship from the Deep and advertising from the Deep, as you can see. It's all decorated in the Deep logos and all like that. So that helps. So you've got big businesses helping the little businesses. I say the big fish helping the little fish instead of eating them. Do you know what I mean?
Businesses from both sides of the Humber have benefited. On the South Bank, Clearview Scaffolding got a £20,000 loan matched with another loan of the same amount by the start-up scheme. For them, it's been a success so far.
In the short term, well, it's given us a boost to where if we never had this loan, we wouldn't have got as far as we are now. We would have been another 2 or 3 years down the line. But now, with the money that we're getting in, we can take on a stronger workforce and obviously, you know, manage these big contracts that we're getting. I mean, we've got a website coming up soon. We've just spent £4,000 on that, and in the next month or so that'll be up and running. So with this funding that we've got, that's going to benefit us with that as well.
With the economy taking centre stage in the upcoming election, businesses like Clearview Scaffolding believe schemes like these should be extended and encouraged by whoever wins.
It's something that everybody needs if they're going to start off a company where they need to be growing and, you know, to keep up with the clients that they have. Yeah, I mean, it should be fair that people who are going to try and have a successful business should get a go at this. It should be offered to them, definitely.
Children's author Stuart Spendlow is still with me. Stuart, you didn't make it easy for yourself writing this. You could have written it in just plain old prose and told us a story, but you decided to make it rhyme.
I did, yeah. Very stubbornly I decided I was going to make it rhyme, but not just straightforward rhyming, but I decided let's make, you know, line 1 and 3 and line 2 and 4 rhyme. Which was great, but by the end of the project, I was struggling.
So
thinking,
you're rhyming in couplets there, and that's
Yes.
not easy, is it? And you have to get the rhythm right as well.
You have to get the rhythm right, and also it kind of limits your vocabulary, but at the same time, you want to use the exact word for the purpose.
You can do it for a limerick or two, but you can't do it for what's this, a 30-page book or something like that.
Yeah.
I want to just get on to the moral of the tale, as it were.
Yes.
The little girl finds information on the internet, thinks it's interesting, follows that information, and then finds something frightening.
Yes. Very frightening.
The moral of the story, by not spoiling anything, but on the back page. So if something looks good whilst on the internet, ask an adult if you should believe or just forget.
Perfect. Perfectly read there.
Now that does seem very wise, doesn't it? But there is a bigger story there to that.
Absolutely.
To that moral.
Yeah, there is. I think it's really important that children, you know, sort of 5-year-olds, 4-year-olds even, are using the internet, often unsupervised. They'll use it at home on tablets, use it in school, you know, for a fact. And I think it's when parents take the attitude that, well, they're young, so they won't be, you know, they won't be believing stuff, they won't be doing anything they shouldn't be. And I think actually saying that children know more about technology than I do I think that's unacceptable these days, because I think it's not about knowing how to work the technology, but it's about understanding the dangers that go with it. And I think parents have to kind of take that on board.
Well, there is a point where the really very small children have grown up all their lives taking technology and digital technology, information technology, absolutely for granted, and they're the first generation to do so. And so they will have access to far greater ways of discovering information, true or false, good or bad information, than their parents can possibly comprehend, never mind control.
Completely, yeah. And it's about knowing, actually, does this seem as though it's true? Do I believe this? Or actually, do I check? Do I check with somebody or check elsewhere? And that's obviously what Penguin Pig is all about. It's about not just believing the first thing you see, but actually checking that and making sure you've got your facts right.
But that was true before the internet was invented.
Oh yes,
wasn't
completely. But I think the internet's almost made that a much stronger point that needs to happen with children. They need to understand that what they read online particularly isn't always going to be true, because I mean I've had pieces of homework handed in that have blatantly been just straight from the internet. People saying, oh, that's true because it's on the internet.
So are you being a bit of a Luddite here? You've published this in good old-fashioned hard copy paper and ink form.
Yes.
Is it available email as well?
There is, yeah. There's the ebook available on Kindle and on the iBook store as well. But I mean, I love the kind of paperback version. There's something magical about having the physical book.
The dangers that are present on the internet for children are fairly obvious and various, and it's quite political at the moment. How do you stop people doing that? Can you make a law against? How do you verify people's age when they go on the internet? How do you regulate foreign websites?
It's a very difficult one, isn't it? Because the internet is almost sort of, it's still in that new phase. And I know it's existed for ages, but actually people are still finding things out about it, and new laws are coming into play all the time. And although websites say, social networking sites say that children have got to be, 13 minimum, you're still going to have people that are going to break those rules. So I think it's less
especially
about
children who are naughty.
Absolutely. And it's less about getting children to follow those rules at all times, because they're not going to.
Stuart, thank you very much. Good luck with the book. Absolutely lovely to read, beautiful to look at as well. The carnival that is a national election campaign arrived in Grimsby today, and as political giants and statesmen tried to attract the constituency's voters, all eyes were on Joey Essex, who was accompanied by UKIP leader Nigel Farage. Great Grimsby is one of his party's prime target seats. Richard Morris tried to meet him.
That we should put the interest of this country and the people of this country first. And I say shame on them, because they may shout at me, they may throw abuse at me, but the fact is, if you don't run your own country, if you don't control your own borders, you're not the master of your own destiny.
Richard,
Yes.
did you meet Nigel Farage this morning?
Unfortunately not. He arrived about 45 minutes late to the meeting. Obviously, you know, whenever sort of any major political figure comes along to any sort of region, things always overrun. You know, you're always getting swamped by the media. I mean, we had huge interest from Sky, ITV, BBC National. You know, they were all there. And so obviously with these kinds of things, you know, things tend to overrun.
Not to suggest that Great Grimsby doesn't deserve it, but why was Great Grimsby getting overrun by media?
Well, I mean, I think it's one of these things, you know, any kind of party leader going anywhere at all, it will inevitably get swamped by national media. I mean, it's just the kind of thing, you know, let's follow what the party leaders are doing. I mean, obviously, you know, BBC News Channel, they've got correspondents who constantly sit on the party buses and that kind of thing.
But why is Grimsby, in that case, particularly interesting to this party leader?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, Grimsby is being touted as a bit of a battleground for UKIP. A lot of people are saying that UKIP could well just sort of clinch this. What's quite interesting is that, you know, Nigel Farage is obviously really pushing Victoria Ailing, saying how great she is as a candidate. Yet the polling actually still suggests that they're still sort of 18 points behind Labour in the local area, according to Survation. So
some polls, other polls put them a little closer.
Yes, some polls, of course, put them a little bit closer, but it's not quite the sort of neck-and-neck race that I believe he would like to, you know, obviously sort of put across that it is. But, you know, I mean, obviously, he was sitting on sort of three main issues, and that was fishing quotas, defence spending, and leaving the EU. He says that fishing quotas have absolutely destroyed Grimsby as a town. He said that, you know, we need to move to this Norwegian style, which is whereby you can fish as much as you want, but every 6 months you've got to move around different parts of the regions just to make sure, obviously, that, you know, the fishing stocks can replenish. He said that, you know, on leaving the EU, he wasn't really going to trust David Cameron. You know, any kind of, you know, alliances or whatever with David Cameron, he couldn't quite be trusted on this. He previously said he'd have a referendum on the EU, still hasn't quite done that. And also, of course, on defence spending, he said he wants to increase that to 2%, and so that he wants to set up more things like military hospitals and that kind of thing, because he said that the way that we treat veterans in this country is a disgrace. He said that, you know, 1 in 10 homeless people in the UK are former you know, service people.
Veterans, yes.
And you know, we do nothing to help them, is of course what he's saying.
On the matter of the fishing quotas and the fishing areas, I suppose it would be convenient if, in order to operate that very sensible sounding policy, if you had some sort of arrangement with other countries to ensure that they didn't then have a different rota of fishing areas that just followed you straight in to take the fish that you'd left behind. Would that be a policy that you think he'd find attractive?
I don't know, because I mean, this kind of goes back to cooperation within the EU. I mean, he constantly says that he wants to leave the EU, but then he's saying, well, you know, but we'll have a working partnership with them. And of course, if you're going to be doing 6-month rotas, moving everything round, well, other countries may well then come in and say, well, it's our turn now. So, I mean, obviously, you know, this is a policy which needs to perhaps be explained a little bit more.
Did he go into any details about UKIP's attitude to renewable energy?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, he was standing really on those three main principles. You know, he said that obviously UKIP standing in Grimsby and UKIP winning in Grimsby would be scaring the political class. This is one of his sort of main sort of frames of attack against the other candidates. He said that Westminster is terrified of Grimsby voting UKIP to sort of really shake up the establishment.
Talking of the political class, I suppose a very good example of the non-political class would be Joey Essex, who seemed to dominate Mr. Farage this morning in Grimsby.
Yes, it seems that Joey Essex seems to have rather stolen the show, certainly on the Grimsby Telegraph website. Joey Essex has described him as a ream guy. Do you know what ream means?
I'm afraid I do not.
Ream is something that people in Essex say to say that this is a good thing. I think it's definitely a compliment. I don't know specifically where the word comes from. They said that he was a ream guy. Apparently he met him on the docks, thought he was great.
How does Joey Essex's level of sophistication in politics help improve Nigel Farage's image?
I don't know, but Joey Essex is doing this to all of the party leaders. He met Nick Clegg a couple of weeks ago. I believe he's also met Ed Miliband now, and now, of course, today he's met Nigel Farage. So I don't know if he's also going to go and meet Cameron, but he seems to be meeting all of them.
Richard, I'm sorry you didn't get to meet him this morning, but thank you very much for trying.
Thank you very much.
And the parliamentary candidates for Great Grimsby are, so far, the Independent Gary Calder, Conservative Mark Jones, Labour's Melanie On, Valerie O'Flynn for the Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition, Liberal Democrat Steve Besant, Green Vicky Dunn, and Victoria Ailing for UKIP. Time now for more locution on location with What You Say.
Well, one of those things with the white.
Who or what? Well, it's not that big or good thing, or something you eat, but no, I don't know.
The grub. Once again, could be a worm, bait, or something like that.
Now, James Dunn is back with all the sport.
Scunthorpe suffered a further blow to their fight against relegation, losing 2-0 away to MK Dons last night. Will Grigg scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. The first came after Iron keeper Luke Daniels parried a shot. Grigg was there to strike the rebound. The second came when Daniels fouled Dele Ali in the area and Grigg beat him from the spot. It put them in a real trouble going into the final 6 games, just 1 point above the relegation zone, with some crucial fixtures against other relegation-threatened sides like Crawley and Colchester. The recipient of Hull City midfielder David Mailer's tackle that saw him see red has been ruled out for the rest of the season. Kyle Norton had to leave the field with ankle ligament damage, and it's now been revealed that he will miss the rest of the 2015 campaign with the South Wales club. Meanwhile, the Tigers are just 2 points above the Premier League trapdoor with 7 games remaining, starting with Saturday's trip to Southampton. In horse racing, Hallington-based rider Ros Cantor will join the top 2 in the world at the next week's Belton International Horse Trials. Among more than 600 riders taking part are the world number 1 William Fox Pitt and number 2 Janelle Price. Ros is a successful international rider herself and will be partnering 4 horses and hoping to win the esteemed CIC3 Grantham Cup. And finally, in the Northern Counties East Premier League, the Easter weekend saw a win for Bridlington Town, who beat Armthorpe Welfare, and Cleethorpes Town, who beat local rivals Barton Town Old Boys.
Thanks very much, James. That's all we have time for. Contacts on the screen if you want to contact us. But for now, good evening.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Thursday, another dry day with some good spells of sunshine after early fog patches. Becoming warm again after a chilly start. Coastal areas perhaps warmer than on Wednesday. Maximum temperature of 19 degrees. Friday, dry and warm again, but with a freshening breeze and sunshine increasingly hazy.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.